All right, welcome back to the Trail North podcast. My name is John Dowd. I am a journalist based in Montana and a photographer and that kind of thing. Today, I'm super excited for my guest. It is Joe Trimbath. Joe is the operations manager, Steel Ops, Ballistic Armor and Target Company. They produce high-quality steel body armor inserts for plate carriers, for military, civilian, law enforcement, private security, the whole gamut. They are American made all the way down to the glue on the sticker, as I am told. Steel Ops is based out of Fort Collins, Colorado. Joe has been with the company since the beginning in 2013 and has helped test, research, develop every product on their line. And he has personally tested thousands of plates, various types, brands, that kind of thing. Sounds like they're pretty active in their community, and with law enforcement, they do a lot of outreach. Found recently that you guys donated armor to local police there in Fort Collins, which is pretty cool. I should preface here that I am not at all sponsored by Steel Ops for this. I just reached out to him, I got Joe first on the call, started picking his brain. He's probably the topics we're going to get into. He must have thought, where is this coming? Where is this coming from? But anyways, thanks for joining me, Joe. I super appreciate it. How do you feel about being on the air for this?
It's great. We appreciate the invite, and we don't shy away from questions or controversy at all. And there is some that surrounds steel armor, and hopefully we can get into that and some of the reasons why, and help explain some of the reasons why we've been able to be successful in the face of that. Since 2013. So.
Yeah, no, you guys don't shy away at all. I kind of hit you with it first as soon as I called. And that's kind of the main conversation we're going to have here today is about the controversy, right? So to kind of, for people who don't know, there's different varieties. Let's do that. Let's talk like from, soup to nuts. Let's go from the beginning and work our way up to the controversy. What is armor? Why do you need armor?
Let's start there. And you'll have to forgive me because I've had this conversation so many times. I'm going to say some things that probably feel a little bit regurgitated, but that's just the way that I talk. Generally speaking, body armor is a piece of equipment that is meant to increase survivability by allowing the user to render aid, and that can be to themselves or to somebody else. And it's not meant to make you bulletproof. It's just there to increase in survivability. So from that lens, now rendering aid can be a couple things. Rendering aid could be like shooting back. Rendering aid can be like self-aid, can be just moving to a concealed position or to some place that's more advantageous. Rendering aid can also be helping somebody else. And so the idea with body armor is that you're able to do your job, potentially take a bullet impact and continue to do your job. That's it. That's all it's there to do.
Yeah, that's the key point, isn't it? Yeah, the increased survivability. And that'll become a key point throughout this discussion.
Exactly.
Right? That's a key piece of it.
The issue is that increasing survivability is really highly dependent upon what some might call your threat assessment, right? And so for a civilian, that could be everything from handguns all the way up to rifles, shotguns, and stuff like that. And everybody's situation is a little bit different. And so what a civilian might need for body armor is not completely. It's different than what a law enforcement officer might need. That's different from what a firefighter might need. And that's different from what a military, a soldier or a Marine might need. So because of that, those differences, there's different levels of body armor. Right? And so most people have at least heard different levels getting thrown out there, but I think a lot of people don't really fully understand what they mean.
It gets pretty complicated too, right?
It does.
NIJ, and there's new NIJ standards. There's all kinds of, let's talk a little bit about maybe we should boil that down really simple, because we'll get into the weeds in a little while and we'll throw out a lot of terms, I'm sure. But let's stick to like the basic standard NIJ ratings. And what you guys rate your armor for, because you make, obviously steel armor. Most of it's like, what is it, level 3? 3 plus.
3 and 3+, yeah.
Oh.
So starting at kind of the bottom. This isn't the bottom, actually. There's like 2 and 2A and stuff like that, but let's not get into the weeds on that yet. The most common types of body armor that you're going to see out on the market are 3A, and this starts at the bottom in terms of protection value. So 3A is going to be a lot of your light pistol calibers, right? So think 9mm, 44 mag, stuff like that. Incredibly common with law enforcement because that's usually what they encounter, right? Is handgun threats.
It's also super light and a little bit more affordable for departments. It depends on what you get, I guess.
Yeah, I would actually say neither of those are actually entirely accurate, just because Kevlar, and it's generally, so 3A is soft armor. And the reason they call it soft armor is because it's flexible. So a lot of 3A vests, to get the stopping power that they need, it's not just one layer of Kevlar. It's many, many, many layers of Kevlar. And you'll have to forgive me. I can't quite remember how many it generally takes. And there's other products other than Kevlar to get the 3A protection that's required. But it's more than one. And it's definitely more than 2. So when you layer all that together and then they sew it into this big thing, actually those 3A vests can actually become reasonably heavy.
Well, they're also really bulky too. Like it's not, it's like having like a bunch of jackets on over you.
Exactly.
There's a lot going on there.
The advantage to 3A is that it's flexible. So you can wrap it around your body. It's not just a plate that covers your critical organs. It covers your sides. It's a broad fit. And it also helps serve to some degree to help kind of mitigate like shrapnel or debris, if you will. So there's been some circumstances where law enforcement officers, been in a car accident or something like that with sort of an impaling injury. And if it were not for their 3A vests, it probably would have been worse. So it's not, to be clear, it's not to take away from 3A, but they are a lot of times quite expensive though too.
Yeah, it can be. Well, and also if you're looking at so I've got a buddy here that works for, I don't know if I should say exactly where, but he works for a prison here locally or jail. And they're required to have Spike Pro. They have to have spike protection. And not all Kevlar, not all level 3 is going to protect you from that kind of stuff.
No.
And that really is super bulky. I mean, it like adds a couple inches to what can already be pretty substantial armor, right?
Exactly. And what can stop a bullet may not necessarily stop a knife. And this is going to be a continuing theme as we talk about this.
Yeah.
What can stop a 308 can't necessarily stop a 5.56. So there's just a lot of nuance to it, and it's unfortunate because I'm sure we would all like it if it was just nice and cut and dry and black and white.
Well, you told me when we started talking at some point, you said, if steel was the one, that would be all there was, right?
Correct.
And I think you're exactly right about that. So we're up to 3.8. The newest thing right now is level 4 that we're going into. It's not really new, but that's popular.
No. Yeah, level 4 stipulates that you're able to stop what's called M2AP. So that's a I believe it's tungsten core, 30-06 round, and don't quote me on this. I think it's 2,880 feet per second.
It seems so slow.
Very uncommon round too. It's not a lot of guys walking around with semi-automatic 30-06s, and
it's not a standard issue anywhere, I think, anymore. So it's
not weird. Don't get me wrong. Somebody's gonna comments and go, oh, I've got a bar that's a semi-automatic 30-06. I've got a tungsten laying around. Okay, well that's not. It's a pretty bad CQB weapon. I would use that term too, but for like an urban rifle, 30-06 is not that practical, and this is going to continue to be a theme as well. When we're talking about these threats, try to picture in your head what the actual situation would be if you were to be shot by a 30-06. Do you think it's going to be when you turn the corner in a house, or do you think that guy is going to shoot you from 200 yards out because he's got a scope and so. Yeah.
Well, and that's what I said earlier when you said like the velocity it's moving at, that seems super low, right? Which is good because, if you're thinking about that distance, they're firing at you. But after about, 300 yards, that's going to start dropping pretty quick. So, yeah, it might stop it there. But, yeah, it's just like you say, that's so, like, nobody's people are carrying that, but it's not something that most of this is, again, back to your first point, right? Increasing chances of survivability. It's not guaranteeing anything, which I think in my own, like, non-military, non-experienced Joe Blow doesn't know nothing. It's like a first aid kit, right? Having a first aid kit is a good thing for, injuries. It's not like having the first aid kit then prevents you from ever getting hurt, right? It's just adding those things. And when you're a civilian, you're thinking affordability, how long that's going to last, you wearing it or not wearing it, it's sitting there until you need it.
Yep.
Versus what it's probably going to.
Yep, shelf life.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a question we'll get into later. But yeah, I mean, it's a value system for an individual. It's not something that can be blanket applied to everybody, right? So let's just get into the controversy then, because we'll probably spend most of our time kind of talking about it, picking your brain about it.
Back in, because we went from 3A to level 4, and where our plates fall is in between 3 and 3+. So, yep. Well, we are 3+. 3+, I want to be clear too, is an industry term. That is not an actual NIJ rating, okay? The reason that 3+ became a thing is that level 3 stipulates that you can stop 308 at 2,750 feet per second. Great, that's cool. The problem is that there are level 3 plates, many level 3 plates out on the market that can stop 308 at 2,700 feet per second that will not even slow down M855, which is debatably the second most common rifle round in America. So for those of you, for those who don't know what M855 is, it's what's commonly referred to as green tip. It's a lot of people call it an LAP. It's a light armor penetrator or a barrier penetrator, and it has a steel core. It's a 5.56 round that has a steel core in it, and a lot of level 3 armor out on the market cannot stop that. There is also some level 3 armor out on the market, particularly old types of steel that were level 3 that cannot stop high speed M193, which is just a 55 grain 223 or 5.56 round.
What's amazing when you start, jumping up in barrel length too. I mean, just a couple inches, and then you subtract range. When you're close range and somebody's got a 20-inch AR, you're going to be lucky to stop that anyways.
Correct. So our armor falls into the 3+ category because it not only has a NIJ certification for level 3, but it's also rated to stop M855 and M193, both in excess of 3,100 feet per second. So.
Now, what range are you guys testing those at, just out of curiosity?
Well, it's most of the testing that we do in the videos that you see on YouTube are at about 12 or 15 feet.
Sure.
So
that's
but distance is not everything, as because if you're only shooting an 11.5 barrel length, you could be 2 inches away from the plate. It's not going to do it. So.
No, it's not going to. Yeah, that velocity starts really making a big difference.
Sure.
So we'll jump into the controversy just to start it, because I want to talk to you about your products, what you guys make, and there's different. We'll get into it. There's a lot we got to cover in a short amount of time. You say that it's like 2 hours, but it goes by, man. So the controversy, kind of at the heart of the question, the reason that Joe was here in the beginning, was there's a lot of pushback against steel. So there's different options, right? You've got steel, you've got composite, you've got ceramic, and then you've got poly, which is a lightweight plastic that's coming out now. There's a lot of different benefits to all these, but there seems to be a major a campaign by some of the companies producing some of these other armor types.
Good word. I like that word. That.
Well, that's what it feels like, because on every YouTuber you see, don't get steel, it'll get you killed, and all this stuff. And it's like, and they're all talking about how heavy it is and all this other stuff. And like some of these are true to a point. But again, when we talk about threat management, when we talk about like quality materials and construction, that's like if you watch a lot of these YouTubers that make their own armor, it's amazing from one plate to another how much they can and can't stop. And it's 100% construction and materials, right? And like you said, there's no do it all. But yeah, so is there truth to that? Is there actually a campaign against steel?
Oh, that is
Puts you right on the spot,
putting
right
you
there.
on the spot. I would answer that by saying that I would be unsurprised to find out that ceramic manufacturers, big ones, as well as some small ones, did not see a market share loss in the armor industry as a result of steel armor being done correctly, and seeing side-by-side tests with some of their products, and that a lot of the stuff that has been said about steel armor was an attempt to take one specific type or brand from a very specific era in steel armor, and use that as a blanket description for all steel armor going forward. And I think it's shared though.
Yeah.
The fault was on both sides. One is that there were some companies unwilling to improve their product or do it the right way. And two, there were other companies on the other side willing to exaggerate and overgeneralize the effects of that.
Way to answer that super politically correct.
Yes. So, and I won't continue to do that, but I guess that's kind of
okay. No, I expected that answer for this question in particular. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's to be blunt, that's actually where we came from.
Yeah.
Okay. We saw a product out on the market that was semi-popular, but was done pretty poorly.
Yeah. And well, there's an influx. There's an influx of all these companies starting to make steel armor, and a lot of it really is not. It's subpar.
It is. Yeah. And I will be the first one to tell you that I think the vast majority of steel armor is subpar. That's a steel armor manufacturer telling everybody out in the world that the majority of steel armor on the market is subpar.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's talk about the elements that change that. And what you guys make, right? Because a lot of companies are doing AR 500, which is target steel. It's very heavy. It's bullet resistant to a degree. You guys are using what, AR 600?
Yep, and we're using something a little bit thinner. And so what most companies started out with was 1/4 inch AR 500 or 1/4 inch AR 550. The problem in the steel world, and my knife guys out there, they're going to appreciate this. So I'm a big knife guy too, so I know my knife steels and stuff like that.
You're going to watch some of our previous podcasts. You'll get into it for sure.
Just to prove it, I'm walking around with Rex 121. So there you go. Okay, so the problem with AR plate is that most guys in the knife world will talk about Rockwell hardness, right? And how hard particular steels are. Brunel is kind of like Rockwell. It's not a direct conversion, but there are some charts out there. But Brunel is just a different scale of way of testing the hardness of steel. And when it comes to AR 500 and AR 550, the problem is that there is a broad spectrum in which something qualifies to be AR 500. And we run into this on our target steel. So just because a mill out there is selling AR 500 does not mean that steel tests at 500 Brunel at every spot on the plate. Okay?
Oh, interesting.
There's a variance. There's a variance across the sheet. There's also a tolerance within those manufacturing specs that says, hey, if it actually comes out at $475, we're still selling it to you as AR500.
Uh-huh.
$525, we're still selling it to you as 500. And so that becomes the issue, and it's mainly because AR plate is not. It stands for abrasion resistance. It was not really made to be bullet resistant. It is, and it works great for that. But it's made more for like abrasion resistance, and so they don't need to be that tight on their tolerances. So one of the many issues that Steel Armor had early on when they were using AR500 is that this company's AR500 at 1/4 inch thick, for some reason, doesn't quite perform the same as this company's AR500 at 1/4 inch. And that's because of that variance in there.
That's such an interesting parallel. I was going to show you this off air earlier, but I didn't think about it. This is not product placement. You're talking about abrasion resistance, and that's a quality that made aramid fibers, specifically Kevlar, popular for. So a lot of companies make escape rope for firefighters and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. They can make it really, really thin, and it's made out of aramid fibers like Technora and stuff. So I developed this little escape kit. This is like a personal rappel kit that goes out to 50 foot, and it's retrievable. It's a tactical kit. But the rope we use for this is an aramid fiber. It's Kevlar, essentially, or like a brand of that, because it's heat resistant, because, the friction, because it's friction resistant, obviously.
Sure.
I wonder now, does that tie into armor that resist the got my brain. I haven't had enough coffee this morning. My brain's going, that resistance, that friction resistance, what is that doing for you, I guess?
Maybe you were using the words a little bit differently too. So it's not so much friction on these plates. These plates, AR plate was designed to be on the end of skid steers. And earth moving equipment. And it's designed to rub against granite and rock and stuff like that.
Wear resistance, I guess.
Yeah, think of it more as wear resistance, not necessarily like friction resistance.
Yeah.
And, AR plate does not like to be bent. It is very, very brittle, which, again, my knife guys are going to know. The harder the steel gets, the more susceptible it is to shattering.
Yeah.
And we'll get into this later as, we talk about other types of steel that we've used and tested. But that was a big issue. And I would like to say that we are a major, if not very important, contributor to some of the current steel that we'll get into here in a little bit. That is currently out on the market, passing the RF2 standard, the new RF2 standard. That is some pretty awesome stuff that we actually had a large hand in, not only trying to get to the market, but very early on trying to encourage metallurgists to develop, because 6-7 years ago, the idea of being able to have a plate at, let's say, 700 Brinell that you could still put a bend on was almost unconceivable.
Wow.
And without saying too much, that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, now you've got multi-curve and all this other stuff going on.
At a 700 Brinell hardness.
Yeah. Crazy.
So that's pretty crazy. So in any case, the difference between like an AR500, AR550, and a 600 is that when you start getting up to that 600 Brinell range, the mills tighten their tolerance a lot. Okay. And so the mill that we that manufactures the plates that we use for our body armor, they're a phenomenal mill, and they have very good tolerances. And then we also take every batch of armor that we get, both target and body armor steel, and we send it to an ISO certified lab, which is a third party that does those hardness tests in little samples throughout the entire batch, so that we can ensure that we're not seeing a fluctuation throughout that batch. We don't want half the plates going out the door to have a 25 Brinell, difference from the other ones. So
Awesome. Well, so now let's get into the other piece of that. What makes it work? Because everybody and the brother that talk about steel, they're going to talk about spall. And we should probably define those, right? Because there's spall and then there's splatter. And the coating on the material is kind of what, because, everybody hears you're going to shoot that steel, that bullet's going to hit it and stop, but it's going to, they'll say spall, but it'll splatter in a big ring.
The correct word would be like fragmentation. That's what we call it. It's fragmentation. Yep. It's fragmentation. Spalling, we got to stop using spalling. Spalling is something that happens on the backside of ceramic plates. And I don't want to get into it, but think of spalling as a residual penetration or something. It's injuries that can be incurred on the backside of plates as a result of parts of things making it way through. Not the bullet necessarily, but parts of the plate maybe breaking apart or fragments on the backside. Fragmentation is what happens on the front side. And so before we even get into this, I would just say, yes, when you shoot a bullet at a piece of steel, you're going to get fragmentation.
Yeah.
When you shoot a bullet at a piece of concrete, you're going to get fragmentation. And when you shoot a bullet really at anything hard, you're going to get fragmentation. That includes ceramic, glass, steel. There's all kinds of hard things out in the world that can break a bullet apart. It's not just steel.
Tree branches.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much.
I've seen some pretty crazy things stop bullets too. I'm a diehard 223 guy. I love my AR-15s, but I've literally seen sheet metal stop 223 rounds like M193. If it's just like a lead core M193 round, it doesn't take very much to stop that stuff. So,
and the angle too, right? The angle is going to make a huge difference, right?
Angle of incidence. I've seen M855 skip off windshields. So glass, like literally the bullet hits and it doesn't actually go through the glass. It's like laminated, like good automotive glass, and that bullet just skipped right off the side. It cracked the glass, but it didn't go through.
Yeah, so, crazy. Okay, so what do you guys do to mitigate that as an issue? And I know everybody's going to be like, well, it's just like, truck coating, the truck bed stuff. Truck bed liner is the word I'm looking for, which is what a lot of other companies, it looks like. It may not be that. But you guys have something pretty interesting that you're working with that I know is similar or maybe exactly the same stuff they use on the bottom of some military vehicles for, tell us about what you guys do to mitigate that issue.
Right. So in our early years, when we were building like prototypes and testing stuff, we used what everybody else was using. And let me think if I can say this.
Yeah. yeah. I don't want to
Sure I can, because it's actually a really good product. Okay. So I'll start by saying this. The product that a lot of people used right off the bat is a really good product. It was manufactured by Linex, and it's a product called PaxCon. Okay. And to be clear, there's a ton of people on Reddit and YouTube, and there's some actually relatively big YouTube channels that are going to sit back and they're going to armchair it, and they're going to say, it doesn't matter. They're all the same. They're all basically the same. They're all applied the same, which means that they're all the same. I love you guys, but it's a really dumb statement. No, they're not. They are miles different, both in how they might be applied using the same equipment, but on a molecular level, on a chemical level, they are much different products. Otherwise, Linex wouldn't be able to charge the exorbitant price for PaxCon that they do to coat government buildings with this product in case they're struck by munitions to help hold the building together. And that is one of the things that PaxCon was known for a while, was that it would get applied to infrastructure. And it was designed to help mitigate blast, and it's a great product for that. It can literally be the make or break between a building potentially collapsing or not, and being able to withstand those impacts. So it is a good product. Because of that, people decided that it might work good for a ballistic coating. It does not. PaxCon is far too rigid. In our testing, PaxCon is far too rigid of a product to be used in a body armor application. And what we were finding is that when you apply that to a body armor plate and you shoot it, it has a tendency to do what we call pucking off. And so the bullet would go in, it'd go through the coating, it would hit the steel plate, but because it was bonded and it's so rigid and it's adhering to that plate a lot like a truck bed liner, the bullet would break apart and then come right back out the front, and you would get these pucks of that PaxCon coming off of the plate. Are those fragments lethal? We can debate that or not, but at the end of the day, it's not doing what it was supposed to do. We don't want to see anything coming back out of the plate. That's the idea. We want the bullet to go through the coating, hit the steel, break apart, and stay behind the coating. And so we did a lot of testing with different products, different mixtures. We put it out to different coating manufacturers to try to create, come up with a solution, try something new. Let's get crazy with it. So we tried coatings that were very, very elastic, very stretchable. And the problem that we found is that the more elastic a coating got, the less resilient to withstanding the velocity of the fragments it became. So what was great about PaxCon is that if it went in and it did stay behind that coating, there was no way it was coming out the sides.
Yeah.
So we had to find a mix of happy medium between that and a coating that would delaminate, but delaminate just enough to prevent the particles from going all the way to the edge. And that's typically where you see failures on a steel plate, is at the edge of the plate.
Yeah. Let me break that down too for people who don't I know for some people listening, it might be difficult to visualize what's happening, right? Because they're thinking you need to think about it like two materials, like paint, right? So what's happening is you've got your plate, you've got your coating. That bullet's going to go in and it's going to break through the coating.
Correct. Hit
the steel, spread out behind, between the two pieces that are between the coating and the steel itself. And it kind of bubbles up underneath. That's the delamination you're talking about. So for those who have trouble visualizing, that's kind of what's actually happening there.
And I want to stop right there and point out a big thing that nobody wants to talk about. The reason I'll prove that steel is not the only armor that has this issue.
Okay.
There would be no reason to have composite plates. So to be clear, a composite plate is something that uses UHMW PE on the front and ceramic on the back. That is the exact same system that they're using. They're saying that they're doing it to reduce weight, which it does. It does reduce weight.
Yeah.
But raw plain ceramic has some of the same fragmentation issues that steel does for the exact same reason. And so we're not the only ones that have this issue. So I'm using that as a data point to prove that steel is not the only hard surface on Earth that creates fragmentation. And so when we developed our coating, we had to find something, like I said, that did that job correctly and did it in a way that could accept more than just one impact. Early on, we were able to find some coatings that really performed incredibly well, but only did so for one round.
Which is, let's talk about that just for a second. That's one of the main drawbacks behind ceramic is multi-hit resistance.
It is, but and as we get into this, can I pause for a second and just make sure that everybody knows? I own all three types of armor personally. I own steel, ceramic, and UHMWP. And towards the end, I'm happy to say which brands I chose and what those applications are. Yeah. So please, everybody, look at this through the lens of, I'm not telling you that steel is the end all be all. It's, in my opinion, one of the most versatile, undebatably, but it's not the end all be all. So, that coating and the way that it works on steel is it's similar, but it's not exactly the same to UHMW PE and ceramic. But ceramic, when it fragments or you're talking about the multi-hit capability, I think that the multi-hit capability or inability for ceramic to take multi-hits is a little bit overrated. And so that's one of my criticisms of some of the steel armor companies out on the market is that they're like, oh, ceramic's not multi-hit. Yeah, it is. There's a lot of ceramic plates out on the market that are multi-hit. Are they multi-hit in the exact same quarter-inch spots? No, but that is also like never going to happen. So
I was going to say, like, you probably should move if you're
right. So I don't like it. I don't like it when some of the steel armor companies out there are like, oh, ceramic's not multi-hit. Yes, it is. Of course it is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've shot a ton of ceramic plates, and as long as you're not trying to stack 9 rounds in the same 1 inch, many ceramic plates are absolutely multi-hit in the sense of like real world. When you picture yourself standing 25 feet back from somebody and they shoot 4 rounds at you, it's going to probably be what, a group about that big. Almost all ceramic plates can take 4 hits in a space that big. So I'm just going to come right out and say it. So, but yes, there is a multi-hit concern with ceramic just as much as there is a drop factor. So a lot of people say that ceramic plates are, they're fragile. Yeah. Okay. Yes. If you drop your ceramic plate and you have the ability to send it into the manufacturer and get it x-rayed or have it replaced because you didn't pay for it, go for it. But that's not the case for most law enforcement and civilian. If you drop your ceramic plate, it's probably fine. And most of them put some sort of padding around the edges and stuff like that. It's not that big of an issue. I think what's more of an issue is long-term durability with ceramic. It's not one drop that you need to worry about. It's repeated over and over, in and out of a truck, in and out of the bag, dropping it on the ground over years of use. I think it's undebatable that ceramic has a lower long-term durability than a steel plate does. And I don't think any ceramic armor companies would debate that either. And that's why they put a 5-year, shelf life or warranty on their product, because they just know that after 5 years of getting kicked around and banged against the ground, it's time to take a look at the plate or just replace it. You know what I mean? So we're one of the very few companies on the NIJ compliant products list with a 25-year shelf life. And that's very appealing to many people and departments for obvious reasons. So, but I don't want to be the guy that overplays some of the downsides to the other armor. Ceramic is a absolutely viable armor that is very effective at doing certain things. But one of the things that it is not as effective as people think it is mitigating fragmentation. And we have done a lot of videos, and maybe now's a good time to play that other one if you want to. But
the one you sent,
ceramic can absolutely create fragmentation, and I would ask everybody to just use common sense. It's a hard surface, and there's no coating on it. If it's just monolithic ceramic, if there's no UHMW PE in front of it, there is no coating there. And people are going to say,
we're going to play this while you're talking.
Sure.
Go ahead, keep going. I'm just going to play it here.
People are going to say, oh, well, the bulk of those fragments are ceramic chunks, shards. They're not really that lethal. Oh. Okay, well, some of them are. So if the piece of lead is moving 3,000 feet per second in that video, you're not catching it on video, right? You're using the plate carrier as a witness material so that you can see the amount of crap coming out of the front of that carrier. And that's why we do those videos. That's also why you'll notice in a lot of our test videos, we almost exclusively shoot things in a carrier. There's no other reason to test an armor plate, at least on social media, if it's not in a carrier, because you can't prove fragmentation or how much unless there's some sort of witness material there. And I've seen the guys do balloons and cardboard boxes and stuff, and I guess that's one way to do it. But I think that video is very telling of what the difference is. You know what I mean? You can, at the end of that, if you look really closely on the left of our steel plate, you can actually see smoke coming out of the carrier.
Right there. I saw it right there.
That's just telling you how airtight that hole is. Like it is only smoke that is squeezing back out of that hole that bullet created. Another thing, just for those YouTube guys out there with all the body armor experts, notice that's an unfair hit on our plate. According to the NIJ standard, that's within 2 inches of the edge of the plate. It's considered an unfair hit by NIJ standards, and we still trapped it. So,
oh yeah, it's a cool video, and you can see all the stuff coming out from the ceramic and everything else. Like, yeah, super cool.
And that ceramic plate in that video, which I will not name, is an incredibly popular ceramic plate. And I would encourage people to understand that if we start putting that ceramic plate at an angle, that gets way worse. The more that plate is turned at an angle of incidence to that bullet impact, the more that bullet is likely to just skip off to the side. So again, all hard surfaces create fragmentation. It's just common sense. So we got to have a system there to mitigate it. And I think probably the next debate is just how good does it work? You know what I mean? There's almost all steel armor companies put something on their plates.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of them do it either unethically or use a product that's subpar. One of the ways that they do that is they sell base coated or fully coated plates or build-up coats.
Yeah.
That was something that we chose a long time ago to not participate in. That is a base coated steel plate, in my opinion, should not be sold. So that's one of those examples of a product that we vehemently disagree with and that we will not sell. We will not sell a base coated plate, which is basically just a steel plate with enough coating on it to not show raw steel. That's an unethical product.
Yeah.
And
just target steel.
Exactly. It's just painted target steel. So if that is, and unfortunately that a lot of times is what is used to generalize steel armor, is just some base coated plate from, 10 years ago that was $9.99 on sale on somebody's website. Yeah, of course that's a crap product. You're not going to get me to vouch for that product. It's horrible.
Okay. So okay, one more thing to add to this discussion as we go through. The why is there such a pushback against steel? A lot of it is because of price difference, right?
Yeah, it's market. I mean, this is simple business. It's market share. If the ceramic armor companies could eliminate steel out of the market, they're having a good day. You know what I mean?
Because steel costs a fourth of what a ceramic can cost in some cases, right?
It can. If you're buying 70,000 pounds of steel at a time like we are, it's incredibly cheap. We go direct to the mill and we buy a truckload of body armor plate at a time to get the price down to the consumer. So we can get our price down much lower than just about any ceramic or UHMWP manufacturer can.
Which is important if you're like a local small department, or you're a civilian just wanting to get something, to protect your family, or,
On the contrary, if you're a big department with 275 police officers and you have to buy $1,000 worth of body armor plus carriers per officer.
Yeah.
That's a big bill.
It is. It really is. And I think I just was talking to some police officers this morning about this, just kind of farming for some questions for this. And they are a small department. They can't, what they can afford. But their chief came from a large department, and that's always been a concern, because you have to bring that to the council. You have to bring that to the governing body. And when you say, hey, let's get this product, like you're not going to tell the council, hey, vote to give us this more expensive thing when this cheaper thing does the same thing.
And a lot of times the cheaper thing may not actually have the NIJ certifications it's a pinky promise. It's we tested one plate one time at a ballistic lab and we pinky promised that the rest of the plates are that good. And I think it's important for people to understand, particularly at the admin levels of those police departments, an NIJ certification is not, it's neither the gold star nor something that should be completely disregarded.
Yeah.
It's of value. It's
Yeah,
not
well,
a perfect test, but without that certification, there's nobody coming in randomly throughout the year to inspect those plates. You are relying 100% on the ethics of the company to ensure the safety of your officers. And even as a manufacturer, I don't like that. I actually enjoy the NIJ inspections because it makes me feel good. It's like, hey, you tell me, I make sure we didn't mess, and we've never failed one. We've always passed our follow-up inspections with flying colors. But I think that's really important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For those police departments to have that.
Well, and you guys are providing that third option, affordable, that does the job.
Correct. Yeah. The downside that a lot of departments see, some of the departments that have chosen to go an alternative route, the main reason was that they wanted all-day rifle protection, and our plates are absolutely challenging to wear all day. Our heaviest plate is 7.2 pounds, and our lightest plate is 6 pounds. So you're asking an officer to wear an extra 12 pounds on top of what they already have all day long, and some officers can, and some officers can't do that. So the alternative is to go to something like a UHMW PE, or I think Dyneema is the name of the other material that's used for that. And they are all-day carry plates because they can weigh as little as 3 pounds per plate. But again, an all UHMW PE plate is subject to M855, so it is absolutely a give and a take. You know what I mean? And every department has to do exactly what we said at the beginning. They have to do a threat assessment. They have to ask themselves what they're realistically going to be up against. And for a lot of smaller departments, and even larger ones, we've outfitted police departments as big as 300 officers. So it is a spectrum, but particularly for, like you're saying, for some of the smaller departments, it's a lot easier to bite off, roughly $250 per officer plus a carrier than $1,000 per officer. So
yeah, exactly. And so let's talk too about other concerns that people have: steel versus ceramic and all those things. Size, thickness is a concern. Versus, steel is obviously, in your case, especially a lot thinner than a lot of ceramic. And weight seems like it's not as big a thing as people, like when we're talking hard armor specifically, right? You look online, and a lot of these, when you actually look at the weights, for affordable ceramic, a lot of it weighs the same as some of the other steel stuff.
Yes, and I'm going to pick on a brand here because I like them. So I want to make that clear. So, RMA, Armament, out of Centerville, Iowa, I think is the name of it.
I don't remember that.
They're a good company. Okay. So if you're going to look at, if you need ceramic plates, I think they're a good company. For the longest time, their most affordable monolithic ceramic plate was called the 1155, and it came in at over 8 pounds. It's a level 4 plate.
Yeah,
I think it was like only $160 or something like that
for ceramic. Yeah, that's
ceramic,
a deal.
level 4, NIJ certified level 4, but man, over plus 8 pounds. That's heavier than our heaviest plate. That's heavier than our heaviest plate. So when you're looking at ceramic, it's not only that thickness, which I think is kind of generally, again, another one of those things that it's a little bit overrated. The difference between our plate and their plate is a ½ inch.
Okay.
It's not nothing, but it's also so,
I think it's more of a concern when you look at the poly stuff, because some of that, as far as what I've seen, is massive.
Yes.
But it floats.
It floats. And again, I'll take a company that I'm going to pick on because I own. This is the poly plates that I chose to buy. Were from Prime Armor, and I think they're called Gen 2s. They are ridiculously light. I think they're I don't know. It's something. It's like 3 pounds. 3 pounds per plate. And they're plastic buoyant. But they're all poly, and yet they are over an inch thick. I think they're almost 1.2 inches thick.
Positively buoyant. It's so light, you're floating, putting it on.
But I mean, my goodness, to be able to stop 308 with that. Now, and we can maybe use this as a segue. Stopping it's only half the battle, and I've said this in other videos too. Stopping the round is only half the battle. Body armor has to allow you to stop the round, and then you have to be able to continue to do your job after you take an impact. This is another area where steel kind of shines. It's what's referred to as back face deformation.
Before you get into this, I just watched, because I was doing some pre-research just to get warmed up for this, right? A couple days ago or something, and I just watched a video with like 1 million views or something, and the guy in there said that steel is the worst for back face deformation. I was like, that's why we're doing this podcast. Yep. Yeah, I'm not going to name it or the video or the guy or anything, but yeah. So
that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my life.
Super popular video, and I've heard that multiple times.
I've got a notebook of ballistic data from a NIJ ballistic lab that'll prove that wrong.
Well, you can see it. I mean, you can see it when you see some of these ceramic plates that get hit. I mean, there's like a softball-sized deformation in there. And because he said specifically, he was talking about the need for the trauma pad. You need that for steel more than you need it for a ceramic, quote, what he said, right? And the trauma pad's important for all of it. But
trauma pads are meant to just put some truth out in you. Trauma pads are meant to, I don't even know why they call them trauma pads. Yes, they help mitigate blunt force trauma, sure. But they're really they're really kind of designed to have Kevlar in them, and they're meant to help stop spall, which is a ceramic issue, not a. Hey, when you get a penetration with steel, it's going through. Like there's no spalling. It's just a penetration. It's just a hole punched right through the steel. So when it fails, it fails. There's no partial failure with steel generally. So. The myth about steel armor needing trauma pads is we have spent hours disproving that with ballistic clay, NIJ lab results. As a point of reference, our current level 3 plates, I think the worst back face deformation we've seen on those is
without a complete failure. This is with 308. We've never had a 308 defeat our armor at a ballistic lab ever. You're not going to get through our plates with 308. But at 2,750 feet per second, I think it's 180 grain projectile. The worst back formation we've ever had, I think, was 25 millimeters. Wow.
25 millimeters.
Wow. That's like...
is about it's saying it's about like 7/8, maybe 15/16 of an inch.
Yeah.
So our average, I think, is 15 millimeters of back face deformation. It's like right around like 3/8 of an inch. That's how much curvature is going to be left on the back of that plate after the bullet has hit. That is,
and that's
really good.
That's like really. You look at old. Old flak vest and Kevlar vest. I mean, it's, these guys they'll pull off, you see them get shot, they pull off the shirt and whatever, and they've got these huge welts.
It's localized blunt force trauma. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what you're preventing.
That's because back face deformation.
Yeah. Because if you imagine, like, from a medical side of it, right? If you got hit by, say you're in a bad car accident or something, and you hit the steering wheel, the balloon doesn't go off. That can kill a person. Just because it can stop the heart, it can break bone localized in the area where the heart is functioning. That's what you're wanting to stop from that.
Right.
And so 25 millimeters.
It kind of makes it, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Steel takes the energy of a round and it disperses it more evenly across the entirety of the plate. So when you take an impact, yes, you're in no way, shape, or form am I suggesting that you're not going to feel an impact from 308, but it is going to be dispersed across the entirety of the plate. You can literally see that in the ballistic clay. That's what the ballistic clay is demonstrating when you shoot that, is that on a UHMW PE or a ceramic plate, all of that energy is localized into a space, that is embedded into the clay, which represents blunt force trauma. You can extrapolate that clay indentation into localized blunt force trauma. There is no mark like that.
I want to show what that looks like in a ceramic armor, just so people like what we're talking about here that's happening.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it didn't go through. You don't have a hole in you, but you're going to tell me that that's not going to hurt? That's not going to stop? Like you're talking about.
You're done. You are not shooting back. And again, this goes back to what I was saying. It's not stopping the round is only half the battle. You have to be able to continue to do your job after that. Look, if you've got 5 teammates standing next to you, that's not that big a deal. Somebody's going to drag you to a safe spot. That's good. And if that was a steel core 30-06 round that you just took, just be thankful you are alive, right? But
clip that, yeah.
But there's this give and take, right? So with civilians and law enforcement, I want to be clear. Do I think that the military should adopt steel armor? Probably not. But that is a completely different application for a soldier and a Marine up against completely different calibers in a completely different environment than a law enforcement officer or a sheriff's deputy all by himself out 15 minutes away from anybody who might take a 223 round to the chest and still needs to figure out a way to get home.
Yeah.
That's a different scenario. So that's where these different types of body armor fit in. And again, every type of body armor has a niche, has a spot to fill. And it's interesting. I heard a very popular internet influencer, it was either today or yesterday, post a video talking about how if you call up certain manufacturers, they're going to give you some PC answer about how, you should just try a little bit of everything and then figure it out. I think that's a bad categorization.
Who's got that much money to buy and try all this stuff?
I think that's a bad characterization, and I hope that that's not how what I'm saying is being interpreted. Owning steel, ceramic, and poly is no different than owning a Glock, a revolver, or maybe a better reference would be 9mm, 357, and 10 mil, or an AR-15, a shotgun, and a handgun. Yeah. They're just different things meant for different, use cases and applications. And if you can afford to buy them all, please do so, because there are some significant advantages that each one has over the other. But the reason that we continue to sell steel is because we strongly believe that it's one of the most versatile options out there that does the best job of affordably encapsulating most of the, literally and figuratively, the common domestic threats that are out there that people are going to be up against. You know what I mean? And when I say that, I'm talking 9mm, 223s, 7.62 by 3.9, 308, like those super generic cartridges and those. So.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into. Can I pull up your guys' website and go through it? I wanted to talk about the different cuts and stuff that you guys do, because I think that's another important part. Because it's like you say, there's a lot of options. They all do different things, and there's a reason that Kevlar is still around. Kevlar vests. Because it gives you the most coverage evenly around the body. When you're looking at inserts, whether it's steel, ceramic, whatever, it's just the chest, and then the back. You have to add side plates and all that. Even still, there's windows in there. So yeah, there's all kinds of pros and cons to all of it. Let me do a share screen real quick. Pull you up here. There we go. Steel Ops.
What a nice, clean, simple website.
I know. Let's talk about clean, simple, right? Like you go to your armor and it's like, what, 5 options or something?
3
options.
We've been in business since 2013. We've been in business since 2013, and we did it all with 3 armor plate options, not 17 at different levels. There are 3. They're all the same price, and they're all the exact same protection level.
Yeah. You got one this one's not new, the Costa, right?
The Costa Ludus Armis. Let's talk about that one for a second. So that one was basically just a unique shape that a long time ago we sent our plates to Chris Costa, who was formerly like with Magpul Dynamics, I think is how most people know him. But now he owns his own company called Costa Ludus, and we sent him some plates to test, and he was so pleased with the results that he got that he's like, "Hey, I want my own plate," but he's like, "I want you to make this a little bit more ergonomic, and see if we can shave a little bit of weight, make it a little bit more ergonomic." And that was when we eventually went to a tri-curve design, what we call tri-curve. Most people call it a multi-curve. We call it tri-curve because of the nature of how we do the bending. But that is Chris Costa's design there. We just manufacture it, and it bears his logo on the back. And that was by far one of the most popular plates that we sold in,
I like that one.
In 2021. It still is to this day one of the most popular armor plates. That one comes in at only 6 pounds per plate and is NIJ certified. So.
Right there. Yeah, I like that one. I've got a slick rig that I use that one in. That's a low pro. You can't.
That plate was actually so popular back in 2020 and 2021. There were actually plate carrier companies who decided to make carriers specifically for the Costa Ludus. Like they used that as the template for their carrier, which was pretty awesome. So.
Well, it is super thin. I mean, you're saving off. What is that like? I don't know what your measurement is. 10 to 8. So yeah, like a significant amount on either side. Of course, you're losing coverage, but
you are losing a little bit of coverage. I think you're losing about 5/8 of an inch. So it's about a half inch of coverage.
So you can kind of see here the difference between the XP plate and that. I also like your Pro plate because it's got that swimmer cut. Well, what do you call it? It's not necessarily a swimmer cut.
Yeah, we call it a swimmer's cut. That's kind of an industry generic term. We didn't come up with that, but
yeah, well, because you've got the big cuts on the side, but I tend to refer to those as more like a mobility because you've got the bottom too. Because not all swimmer plates have the bottoms cut.
No, it's meant to be. It's kind of designed to be a front plate, and it's meant to facilitate a handgun draw. I think a lot of people think that it's for shouldering a rifle. That's not necessarily true. I don't personally notice a huge difference between the XP plate and the Pro plate from shooting a rifle. But when you're drawing a handgun and you're pinching your shoulders in and extending, a lot of guys that are way bigger than me, way more muscular than me, have, who actually have muscles up here that scrunches up and on a plate, and it can be uncomfortable. So a lot of guys that have a bigger build like that Pro plate as a front plate, and then maybe they'll run an XP plate in the back. And the logic there is just that little extra weight in the back helps offset some of the gear or kit that you have up front and makes your carrier feel a little bit more balanced. It's not an exact science, and don't get me wrong, there's tons of people that run the exact same. The reverse mindset is, I want the same plate front and back in case I want to change out my plates. I don't know if I really, if I can really get on board with that one as a justification for it, but there's lots of guys that do it. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I've seen that too. And since I'm not a really big guy, but I've got really big shoulders. And so for me, when I go to, even when I'm shouldering a rifle, I do notice the cut difference personally. But definitely, like you say, with pistol, because you're coming out, scrunching up. Mm-hmm. It just, for me, it gives me a little more movement in the shoulders, a little bit more purchase to get the rifle up there, because I'm not a really, really big guy. Our
EMTs and our firefighters also like the Pro plates because they're always bending out. A lot of people don't even realize that those people wear armor. They absolutely do. We sell a ton of fire departments, and they're there to during like active shooter scenarios to take care of people. So they're less concerned about coverage area and being able to shoulder a rifle. They're more concerned about being able to bend over and move people and do stuff like that. So the Pro plate is, if you're worried about mobility, the Armis and the Pro plate are probably the go-to. If you're just worried about coverage area or you're a bigger guy, the XP plate is obviously a pretty good fit too. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And shouldering the rifle too, I wanted to mention, sometimes it's not about, like, when you're really tight. We were talking about CQB on the phone yesterday or the other day, whatever day it was, which we can jump down that rabbit hole too. But yeah, when you're scrunched up and tight and you're coming in, a lot of officers they've started, and military too, they'll center up on the chest with the butt of their rifle versus on the shoulder. And it's definitely a learning curve, learning to shoulder while you've got armor on.
It is,
especially tight.
Yeah, you should absolutely practice with your armor, which is another, the plates, when you're rocking $1,000 plates, I think guys have a tendency to let their armor kind of become safe queens. You know what I mean? And so one of the advantages of steel armor is that they make great truck, vehicle kits, because, hey man, if somebody breaks in and steals your $300 or $250 worth of steel armor, it sucks, but you're not like, it's not like irreplaceable. And I think guys are more likely to go out and train with it and use it. So that's a good thing. But yes, shouldering a rifle, doing all that, you need to do everything that you think you're going to do with armor on and without it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you to wear armor every time. Yeah. Go take that 1 mile jog with your body armor on.
Yeah, right. Dude, I've gotten to the point now where I pretty much only, when I go to the range, if I'm training anything, I pretty much just do it in my armor, just to get the mileage on it. And I've started doing these courses for the local department here. I'm a big climber, rappeller, and I like to combine the tactical and rappelling worlds. So I do this course for basically it's tactical rappelling, but you get into the weeds, you do a lot of different stuff. It's pretty cool. Learn to shoot on the line.
You're climbing and rappelling with body armor, huh?
Yeah, well, it's essentially like ranger stuff. I mean, you're traversing terrain.
Dude, you're a beast.
Yeah. Dude, it's a good time. Yeah, you ought to do it when you next time you come out. We'll go.
But there's a lot of climbers out there that think they're pretty good until they put a kit of body armor.
I was gonna say, dude, it's so crazy too. Like there's a whole world to it. There's a whole world, like where you're hooking up, because like in SF, guys there's a whole different mindset, and the equipment that they use is different than like a climber would use. But there's a lot of the similar stuff, right? And a lot of I've got a buddy who's a retired Special Forces, lives up in Thompson, and he's also a climber. Like, he's big in the climbing world. And so there's a lot of that. It's amazing how much that translates over. But you start getting into when you talk about jumping over fences and climbing things and stuff with armor, it's a pain. But when you have to worry about lines under tension, where your weight is, a lot of guys, when they do rappelling, if they're in the tactical space, they learn to do it with their bag off. They take their backpack off and they'll hang it below them.
But if you start going up top, with all that, you're changing
body armor.
Be a lot.
Yeah, with body armor, your center of gravity is now like here, up here. So you tend to flip upside down. So there's all kinds of things you're trying to mitigate and work through. That it's a good time. Yeah, and especially when you start trying to do it quick, set up an anchor, throw the rope down, if you want a retrievable system too, and then you're shooting at things and hitting target. Like it's a good time. Yeah. It's a good time.
I'll come be a fly on the wall sometime.
Do it. Yeah, do it. We're doing one here in a couple of weeks. I've got some of the guys from the local jail coming out in a couple different departments, and we're gonna learn how to. I think we're gonna shoot on a line, but we'll see how it is.
Awesome.
But it's a good time, man. The let's talk a little bit about proper wear, as far as like where to have, like, a lot of people talk about like having it up at a certain point in your chest. Tell us how to properly wear armor.
Okay. So this is a generalization. So I don't want the comment section to blow me up and tell me, well, what about?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, you want the top of your front plate to be even with the notch in your collarbone right here. There's a little divot in your collarbone. That puts the plate about high enough. In terms of width, you want that plate, this is specific to hard armor, right? You want it to be about nipple to nipple. What you're trying to do, what body armor plates are designed to do, is protect your off switches. That's spine, heart, lungs. Okay, so those are things that if you're hit, you have a injury in those locations, you are done. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of pelvic girdle shots.
Yeah.
It's just not what plates are designed to be. There's other armor out there on the market that might help with that. So you want that to be a nipple to nipple in width, and you want the top of your plate to be even with the notch in your collarbone. And ideally, you want the bottom of the plate, if you're talking about overall height. In a perfect world, the bottom of your plate's maybe 2 or 3 finger widths above your belly button. And so that's your front plate. In the back, you want your back plate higher than your front plate. I'm going to say that again for the folks in the back. You want your back plate higher than your front plate. Okay. Yeah. And that is to pick up a little bit more of the spine, and it is a much more natural way for your carrier to sit. The carrier company that we prefer to use is called Javelin Concepts, and they did a great job of actually intentionally allowing you to adjust your carrier to put an intentional offset in your carrier so that your back plate naturally sits a little bit higher. You want your back plate to be about the second or third vertebrae down. That really kind of depends on body type and how much muscle you got. But the top of your back plate, the first, not the first vertebrae that you feel on the back of your neck, but about the second or third one down, or somewhere in between. That's where you want it. So
yeah, no, and that's
always see guys wearing their armor too low. That's the number one thing that everybody does, is they wear their kits too low. And I think it might just feel a little bit more natural or something. It should feel, if you've never worn body armor before and you put it on correctly, it should feel just a little bit unnatural. You're kind of like, hey, I got a lot of crap going on right here. That's probably an indication that you're wearing it right, not the wrong way. So.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. Because I know a lot of law enforcement that I've seen, they're just not wearing it because it is more comfortable. It feels more like a backpack if you have it on lower. And a lot of, I want to say this too, the multi-curve, so much nicer than the single curve, especially in the back, because you'll see that pressing up like that, especially when you're leaning.
Yeah, the turtle shell is what the
turtle shell. That's right. But it's super comfortable in the back to have that multi-curve. Because I've heard that thrown around, that they're like, well, just get a single curve for your back. No, don't do that.
No. Yeah.
Also, it helps to do that, to get the back a little bit higher. And it's, I found that having my carrier for a long time and sweating in it helped it, because I'm a cheap bastard. I'm not going to lie. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of money on something that I may or may not need, but I want good quality. A lot of the cheaper carriers, and I've played around with a few of them now, they are kind of square. They're not adjustable. I don't want to say not adjustable. They don't fit as naturally in the positions you're talking about. Yes. But the carrier that I have now, as I've sweated in it and worn it appropriately, it's kind of formed to that shape and it goes on natural. But
a lot of carriers will stretch too. So you have to, I think a lot of people have a tendency to set their carrier up and then start running it and never go back to it to make small adjustments. Not so much on ultra high-end carriers. Again, we don't notice this with the Javelin Concepts carriers quite as much, but on a lot of just the Cordura type carriers, they're going to stretch and start to sag a little bit. You got to go back in and kind of retighten everything up and, make little adjustments every now and then. And if I had to put an adjustment period on there, I would say if you're training with your kit, more than twice a month, you probably need to be revisiting your kit almost every other month to just make sure that those plates are staying at the correct height and that things aren't stretching out, because it's just like any other material. As you get it wet and use it, it moves. So
that's right. Yeah, and I know a lot of people don't like to tighten up their shoulder straps. Mm-hmm. They don't like to get it, because that's, I'm not a huge guy, so tightening those up brings those it forces them up higher.
Forces them like that too, which which drives me nuts, is that I want my plates to sit like this, and I feel like on some carriers, as I bring it up, they have a tendency to V out like that, which in a twist of irony is actually almost a good thing if you think about it, because you're usually kind of lean forward a little bit when you're shooting or drawing, so you're actually bringing your plate just a touch more perpendicular to your threat, which is where you want to try to keep your plates, by the way. Anytime that's the other thing, if you're training with armor, particularly shooting or doing any kind of close quarter training,
Square off.
Whenever possible, you want to try to square your plates up with your threat for two reasons. One, particularly with ceramic, it helps mitigate that fragmentation. And you're also picking up the most coverage area. So if you take a plate and you're holding it like this, you've got this much. But as you start to turn it, you'll notice that the actual visual width of that plate is shrinking down. You see what I'm saying? So by keeping it perpendicular, you're picking up the most square footage.
Sure. It's funny too. Another thing that I want to ask is like tightness, as far as how tight you want it. That's definitely an issue I've seen with rappelling. I've had some people, and myself, when I really started getting into this and learning, one of the ways to mitigate weight on the back, but also same thing for heavy packs, rappelling with it translates over to having armor, because you're putting that center of gravity higher up on the chest, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of guys will hook up to their pack. So they'll have a tie-in point. It'll come down to your waist, and they'll have a tie-in point higher that keeps you from falling backwards, right? But when you have armor on and you're hooked up to your armor and you don't tension those properly, it tends to bring it up, choke you, and backpacks too, right? And obviously tightening that up helps. Jumping over fences and moving around obstacles and stuff, you don't want it to gunk, gunk, gunk while you're running. How do people judge the correct tightness?
So the number one thing is that you want, oh man, I'm gonna get hammered on this. I despise what some people refer to as like hard cummerbunds or non-elastic cummerbunds.
Yeah.
I personally despise them. There are guys that live and die by that. They are like, I do not want my cummerbund to stretch at all. And I think sometimes they're using it for the reason that you're talking about, in that if I'm hooked up to something or it pulls, it has a tendency to like loosen up and go with it. Yeah. The problem with fixed cummerbunds is I think I'm sacrificing mobility, and I want a little bit, but not too much. Yeah. And so there's a compromise there. And again, this video is going to come across as like a sales pitch for javelin. But what we like about javelin is that he's got so much. The elastic that he uses is not only it's elastic, but it's strong elastic, and so you can just cinch the crap out of that. That you can really just cinch that thing down almost uncomfortably tight. But you still have, even then, you still have a little bit of play and give.
So you can breathe.
And so you can breathe and move and shoot and all that. But when you're running, dude, that thing it's locked in. So I think some guys have a tendency to favor a fixed or non-elastic cummerbund so that they just don't have to worry about it. But I've found that that sooner or later you're sacrificing some kind of mobility by doing that. So to each their own. I don't take that as like gospel or anything. So
no, it really is. It's individual preference, right? And the other thing is temperature too. So I've done a lot of, my background is survival stuff, and I've trained a lot of people when this is something you're probably never going to hear on the internet before, or after this, but your body changes size in temperature, right? So I played around with quick release systems.
Yeah, like
I'm not a huge fan.
First gear tubes.
Yeah, I'm not a fan because when you
that's a hot take.
Yeah, this is a hot take. Yeah, clip that. That's the hot take. Your number one, your body changes size, right? And number two, you're adding more layers, so it definitely changes size. So sure. If you're in the cold, like say you have one set of armor, right? Yeah. Are you gonna be, that's why quick release systems I'm not a huge fan of. I have one. I'm playing around with it, trying to get it to work, but I've lost a lot of weight recently, and so that's been a problem. When you throw that on, say in the wintertime, like if I want to grab that same kit, it's set to whatever that size is. So if I have a thick coat for wintertime, it's super tight. So I'm having to try to find my middle ground of, okay, I can wear this in the summer, but no, it's going to be really, really loose. In the winter, it's going to be super, like that's a huge pain. Or you just get the hook and loop,
Yeah. A lot of companies are now shifting to where their cummerbund is a two-piece system. And again, I'm an advocate of the ones that are semi-elastic or partially elastic.
Yeah, me as well.
And you can basically just, they're still utilizing first spear tubes for it's more to quickly don and doff the carrier is what the
Yeah.
first spear tubes are designed to do. And then those adjustments, those necessary adjustments like you're talking about, are actually made via Velcro that is in addition to the first spear tubes. And that's easy enough to just bring in or out, an inch or two. Where I find the difficulty is in the shoulders. So as I change clothing throughout the year, my winter, gear, what I'm wearing in the winter, and I put my carrier on, feels a lot tighter than what I'm wearing in the summer with just a t-shirt. And I see that more and again, because I'm running the javelin, there is shoulder adjustment there, but that's where I find myself having to make the adjustment is in the shoulder a little bit. Not so much. There is adjustment in the waist, but that's easy to do because it's just undoing a piece of Velcro and moving it. I'm not messing with the first spear tubes, but there are times where I'm on board with you with the. I'm not convinced that first spear tubes are the absolute. I think they have a fit and they are pretty nice in some circumstances, but they are. I've seen some places where I don't like them. Yeah. But man, you're gonna get some heat hating on first tubes, dude.
Okay, I got another one too. That's really gonna hit people right with the tubes, right? Because it's about looking cool. That's
they look awesome.
Yeah, they do. They look cool, and to be able to like throw those things on and off, whatever, it's super cool. But I am also not a fan of having stuff on my sides.
Okay.
Because when I'm doing it, because I work tight in close quarters, mountains, whatever, like you're in little spaces among rocks, whatever. So when you're drawing,
absolutely,
you have to have a bunch
particularly on your draw side. I'll 100% agree with you. Particularly on your draw side, you want that clean.
Exactly. I move a lot of stuff forward just so I have it there. I don't want to have a lot of space between me and the ground per se, right. But I want to be able to reach it right there. Sure. So having to reach back is also annoying. And having it in the way for a draw, it's annoying. Also, I left side clear because when I'm rappelling, I like to basically set my rifle butt up, magazine, basically the magazine up under my arm, right? So I'm getting it out of the way, but I can get to it. So having that clear is important.
The only time I really put something on my side would be a radio, and that's usually left side, as tight and as inconvenient as it can possibly be, far away out of the way as it possibly can be, is on my left side right there, and a lot of times inside the cummerbund actually, as an extra way to keep it tight to my body. I'll try to put it inside the cummerbund. That is not always the most comfortable setup, unfortunately, but we're in total agreement on that. Keep your sides clean.
Well, but so that gets into the issue, right? So those tubes, they take up real estate in the front.
They do.
And so
that's real estate right where you want it.
Right, exactly, right where you want it. It's the most perfect spot for everything, right? So that's super annoying. So I'm not a huge fan of those. But maybe I'm rocking one now.
Maybe you just need to get a hold of first spear and develop that some sort of tube that just goes right at the side where you want to keep it clean, but they got to clean that mechanism up a little bit somehow and make it. I don't know how you would do it.
Yeah, I don't know, because you have to get purchase on it. Like it's just it's got to be there.
You can take it on and off quickly. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I said that's the thing, right? It's cool to be on and off quick, but the other thing I don't like how a lot of armors, you've got the placard that comes up if it's hook and loop, right? You got to pull the placard up and then slap those in, right?
The blind thing, you're like, I think it's right there, and then it takes you 6 times to adjust it. So
and then you end up like this, I
mean, for those of you that are still fighting that battle, the best way to store your carrier, is with one side of your cummerbund already done. You still got to do the flap, but now you're only trying to chase one side, and in a hurry, your carrier will still function pretty well without that one side done. You just keep one side and you kind of swim into your carrier. So you would like pick it up, you'll take your arm and kind of swim into it like that, drop it over. And then when you find time, find the right side of your, I generally keep the right side undone, and that one's easy enough for me to find, again, because I keep my my right side clean. I can find that other cummerbund and put it on when there's time to do it. So.
Oh yeah, no, it's, and that's another thing going into like, I don't like to have a lot of crap on my carrier. I like it to be pretty Spartan. especially for like when you're getting to the rappelling, right? When you're doing rope work in and out of buildings and whatever, like that's the first thing I talk about with the officers when I'm training them is like, if you got to, that was the first thing I learned. Years ago, I hung out with some SF guys that kind of sent me down this road. And one of the guys said, you know, the more shit you got hanging off, the more things can get tangled on the fence when you try to jump
like
over.
Gun, the more shit you have on your gun, the more things that can go wrong, you know. So try to keep things as clean and simple as you possibly can. I think that's good advice on anything in the firearms industry. You know,
that's true. That's true. We're talking about so I like that. I always have a knife on whatever I'm doing. As for plate carrier, it's more for like creating space when you need it in those tight moments, right? And again, like the perfect spot for it is right where those tubes are, because you want it like right under the arm. You don't want it in the way. You don't want it to be, you know. And then when you try to fold up on the front placard, right? If you have a knife on there, it doesn't want to go up, right? I've seen a lot of guys that have it there.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's a pain.
It's
pain. It's a
magazine.
Pain.
Anything that's taller than that flap just gets hung up, and you end up, you know, like I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
so I think that's the reason that they're now a lot of carriers are using the first spear tubes is to eliminate that flap. Again, totally in agreement. The tubes are just in the worst possible spot. It's so valuable. Like that one spot is like, that's the perfect spot for, you know, a multi-tool or a flash, you know, something right there. And the only thing that I will generally run on my back, I run it, I guess you would call it at like a 5 o'clock position. That's where I like to put my IFAK. It's got to be on some sort of, maybe not quick release is the term that I want to use, but I need to be able to rip that thing off. So I like to put medical at 5, and it just depends on what you're doing for a backpack. You know, that one's tough. That's totally circumstantial, but I like in the armor industry, or more specifically in the plate carrier industry right now, there's a lot of companies making an effort to make like quick detach backpacks that are meant to integrate with a carrier. That is something that has needed to happen for a long time. And another plug to Javelin, they did a great job on theirs, but there's other companies out there that do it. And that is something that has needed to happen for a very long time. There used to be everything was on your backpack. And if you're not operating in a team setting,
the pack's for other people. It's not for you.
Yeah. Whereas now they're developing backpacks that are moderately still accessible to yourself. And I think that's something that I hope that the carrier industry continues to kind of advance upon. So.
Oh yeah. I'm talking about IFAKs. That's another one I'm going to give you another hot take.
Okay.
So I just did an article for Recoil Off Grid.
Okay.
About so this will either make you way cooler or way less cool depending on who you are. But I'm a big fan of the fanny pack IFAK.
Okay.
Because like the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, a lot of people like the detach.
Completely separate of your carrier, right? It's a separate fanny pack all by itself.
Yep. Because
of everything else you wear.
Exactly right. Because so my situation, right? I come up on a car accident. I've got kid in my car, you know, and I'm not going to grab my whole gun belt and go out there to provide aid.
No.
I look like a whack job running out there with my gun and everything. Like, no, I can grab that fanny pack, throw it on. Big reason though is not that, it's the wear. So you get in a vehicle, you get in that 6 o'clock, my lumbar.
I can move.
Yeah. It's pushing in your back when you get in a vehicle, right? Fanny pack, flip it around to the front. Also, providing aid, don't want to drop fanny pack. I can reach right there in front, still have situational awareness and whatever, but I can go hands-free. It's right there, you know? Also, can attach it to the person.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. I see danglers a lot, and I think that danglers are I used to be a dangler guy. As a matter of fact, I still am in terms. I always wear at least a tourniquet right there. But in terms of having your IFAK or your med kit like permanently as a dangler, I think is a I guess if you're doing it already and it works, then so be it. But that just generally seems like a bad spot.
Yeah, I agree.
If you think that there's a chance that you're going to get shot, that is not the place that I want to put my medical kit. You know what I mean? I think
100%.
you're better off with a piece of armor right there than you are.
I know. And that's a lot of people are going into the armor there on the solar plexus, right?
Yeah.
It's a snack pouch. I'm a big dangler guy as well, but it's snack pouch or smokes or whatever. Yeah, that's what I use it.
It's a good place for admin. It's a good place. Like I said, I almost always run at least a tourniquet right there. It just feels natural. It makes me feel that I've got a tourniquet right there that I can get to, in addition to whatever. There's probably, there's always one in my IFAC too or somewhere else. So, I think, man, you can make hot takes all day on gear.
Dude, I'm
so much trouble on Reddit, dude. You're just gonna get cooked.
I know. I'm so bad about that. But it is what it is, right? Yeah. Like I can say these things because I've done it and played around with it, and I know what works for me, and people can do what they want to do. There's so many ways you can set it up. I'm playing with it all the time, just like changing things out. It's kind of funny talking about like having everything in the front. A lot of people always ask when they're out seeing people in bear country and they've got their gun on their chest, right? So there's not a big not like the steel controversy, but
sure.
A kind of a controversy unto itself, whether you carry it on your gun on your chest or on your hip, right?
Sure.
And the thing is like when you have a bear on your back, you're on your belly, it's easier to get here than it is to reach behind you to try to. So that's kind of one of the concerns. You're
supposed to protect your neck. I've never been attacked by a bear, but I think you're supposed to cover your neck, right?
Me either. But that's you're covering your face and your neck. It's just like for me, that's why I practice tight drop, because when I've done shooting from retention, right, I'm used to squaring up, coming here and doing a draw tight, right? But as far as like all my other equipment, especially tourniquets, right? Because I do the tourniquet on the dangler. I want to have, and I have two of them on front. I have one on my dangler and one on one of the sides there that I can get to if I'm laying flat, if I'm on my back. I want to be able to get to it quickly.
Right.
We should jump into questions because we are at 30 minutes from the top of the hour. My radio coming out when I used to do radio stuff.
Don't forget to go back to that kid's armor too.
Yes, that is where we are going. I will go ahead and do that one first anyways, because that's a super talk about hot takes, right? So I do have a question from Otis, and he talks about what about child-sized armor? And I have seen there's options out there for like backpacks that take inserts for kids. When they're at school, they can then use their pack. What is your thoughts on armor for youth, the options that are out there, that kind of stuff?
Well, without getting too personal, do you have kids, John?
I do not at the moment.
Okay, I do, and my wife's actually a school teacher as well, so it's kind of a double threat, right?
Yeah.
You will never see me put armor on my kid or my wife. And they both spend a lot of time at school.
Interesting.
And there's a couple of reasons for that. The number one thing is that unless you've ever been shot, I don't think you need to consider what's going to happen if somebody's actually shot.
Yeah.
Okay. Body armor is not going to, I'm sorry, but a chunk of steel plate in your kid's backpack is going to cause probably more damage in the long run.
Sure.
Let me preface, it doesn't matter what it is. Having a piece of UHMW PE or ceramic or steel in your kid's backpack in the long run is going to cause more damage than it's worth, I think. And a 6-year-old child is going to take a bullet impact in a much different way, even wearing body armor, than a 30-year-old man is. So do I think that teachers maybe should have access to something in a classroom? We can have that debate if there's, if that becomes a funding question. But what I will say is, on the flip side, do you think it's better, and I'm asking you, maybe not a parent yet, but in your opinion, do you think it's better to have Do you think it's better to have body armor in your kid's backpack or teach your son or daughter how to use a tourniquet?
Right. That is the question.
Do you think that it is more advantageous for a teacher to have access to body armor in her classroom, or have it be a requirement that every teacher have emergency medical training and know how to use an IFAC?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Do we want to put our money and attention into kids' body armor or into just teaching them situational awareness and how to talk to people and how to be friends with people and stuff like that? And my last one is would, in an active shooter situation, do you want your kid thinking about how to get to his backpack, or do you want your kid thinking about how to exit the building and get away from wherever the danger is at? So
Yeah.
I'm never going to fault somebody for wanting to do it. And it's a good question. And thank you to whoever it was that asked it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to feel like I'm downplaying the concern. I think that there are some backpack armor out there that is good. I think the vast majority of it is a scam.
Sure.
A lot of it is 3A. A lot of it provides a false sense of security. And I would argue that this isn't subjective. This is objectively the books that you're putting in a backpack will probably do more than whatever backpack armor you're putting in that backpack. So
isn't that the truth?
A kid also, going back to the topic of wearing body armor, you're asking a lot of a 6-year-old kid to know how to properly don and doff body armor at school. So great. You put body armor in a kid's backpack. The kids that I see at my kid's school are not wearing their backpack at a proper position to protect them from rifle fire or gunshots. Yep. It's slung along one side. It's in one hand. It's never where it needs to be. That is bad practice. That's not where we want their attention at. And I think it's a money grab by some companies to take advantage of parents' legitimate fear about an active shooter at their school. And I think that we instead need to put the attention on taking care of our kids, teaching them social skills, social awareness, situational awareness, some medical skills, teach them CPR early on. And be a part of your school too, by the way. You would be surprised how willing some schools are to help, to kind of describe what their lockdown drill looks like and why.
Yeah.
Almost every district has a head of security that works with law enforcement to create those plans. And I think it would surprise a lot of people how much or how frequently some departments do active shooter trainings at schools. I've been to a lot of rapid response trainings, and some of them good, some of them bad. But the fact that we're doing those, I think a lot of people look at a situation like Uvalde, which is tragic, and they kind of have a tendency to think that is like where law enforcement is at. I'm here to tell you it's not. That is not the standard. There are a lot of departments out there that are far better than that, and we need to trust in them and make sure that we're putting our focus where it needs to be, I guess.
I love that you answered it that way, because that's I'm gonna play a little bit of, I agree with you, and I want to play a little bit of devil's advocate on the other side of this conversation as we go, because it is a conversation, right? It's a threat. All this, like when you get into the prepping world and everything, there's a whole thing about, well, why? That's a question we've got coming up, but if you're a serious prepper, do you need body armor, right? And a lot of guys I have seen that talk about, like, the civilian, do they need body armor? A lot of top tier guys, they say, well, what I'm probably going to do is have armor, but I'm going to put it on my wife or put it on my kid if somebody gets into the house or whatever, because I know how to move and I know how to keep myself in cover and think tactically, and they may not. So if somebody breaks into my house, I'm going to throw it on them and go deal with the threat. So what are your thoughts on those things?
That's an interesting take. I have never once seen a police officer or a special forces guy or a Navy SEAL or anybody during a rescue mission or a quick reaction or a rapid response training take their body armor off and give it to somebody else. You're the expert. You're saying it yourself. You're allegedly the expert in this situation, and without you, they're done.
Yep.
So why would you prepare them for a situation that they can't survive anyway? You sound it. I guess that's my reverse logic.
Yeah.
If I'm gone, odds are they are too. So that makes me in that situation, even though my mind says that they're the most important.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is in that situation that I am the most important, and that I need to win whatever situation I'm in, and that means that I need to make sure that I'm equipped and that my survivability is maxed out, I can ensure theirs. So I don't. I guess I'm not going to say that I disagree with that mindset. It's coming from a place of compassion, right? They're worried about their kids and their wife than they are their family, and that's good. That's the motivation. Don't use that as an excuse to unequip yourself, because you are ultimately what's going to ensure the success of that situation.
100%. And I'm so happy you answered that way. You did that way more eloquently than I would have.
On the topic of kids' backpack armor, we've never sold it. We never will sell it. You'll never catch us offering a product like that. If you called us up and asked us to make it, and you phrased it in the way that, hey, I'm trying to make a custom plate for my kid's backpack, I'm gonna politely ask you to shop someplace else.
Yeah, no, I know, it's totally understandable. And I again, I don't want to come across as I'm disagreeing or anything. Sure. I don't know any of this. That comment specifically, the one about putting armor on your loved ones,
it's coming from a place of compassion. So I don't fault the person for asking the question at all. And
exactly.
There are thousands of people that have asked us that question. Our answer is always the same. So.
Yeah. Well, specifically that comment about putting it on a loved one comes from actually another popular YouTuber who was a tier operator back in the day. That was his take on it. And I don't know the right answer. I've never done any of this. I've never been I've been shot at in the job as a journalist, but not in a serious manner, I guess. I don't know how. I guess it's always serious. But anyways, let's jump to another question. We'll dial down the tension of the questions with this one. So why the shelf life? This is John asking that, not this John, different John.
So this is another thing that I think some steel armor companies have had a tendency to blow out of proportion. Okay. If you take a ceramic plate and put it on a shelf for 5 years, that doesn't mean it's expired. What the shelf life is really, that should be interpreted is that's how many years of using it on a regular basis that you need to be worried about before it's time to start thinking about replacing it. And the problem with the way that the NIJ issues that shelf life or that warranty is that it forces police departments to rebuy armor, because this is a workman's comp issue. If you think about it, if a law enforcement agency issues a bunch of armor to their officers that has a 5-year shelf life, and then they let it go beyond that out, and somebody gets hurt, there's a lawyer somewhere that's going to sue the pants off that agency for using expired plates. So I don't like the way that it's written. I don't like the way that some steel companies or other armor companies portray their warranty. We don't do that. But we also are going to be factual in that ours have a 25-year shelf life. That doesn't mean that other plates aren't good after 5 years or not good after 10. It just means that from a department standpoint, you don't need to worry about replacing the body armor in another 5 years and trying to come up with a new budget. And particularly in bigger agencies, that's a big deal, because I said, if you've got 300 officers and you've got to outfit them with $1,000 worth of armor each, you're talking about having to generate, $300,000 worth of body armor every 5 years. That's a lot. That adds up. So smaller departments, it's not maybe necessarily as big of an issue because the replacement cost isn't quite as high, but it's also just a peace of mind thing. And this is law enforcement and fire department, EMTs, the whole nine. They appreciate that longer NIJ credentialed shelf life because it alleviates them of the responsibility of having to replace it. From a civilian standpoint, the durability, I think, really comes in you're not afraid to use it. You're not afraid to throw it in your truck. You're not afraid to bang it around and whatever. There are some, again, overstated claims that UHMW PE plates can warp or sort of deteriorate in like warm vehicles and stuff. I've never personally seen a UHMW PE plate warp. I've seen videos and pictures of it allegedly happening, but I don't want to. I don't. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I can't tell you that that's actually the case. But I think just putting gear in and out of your vehicle is something to consider, civilian and professional use. So that's where steel plates, I think, have a tendency to kind of shine a little bit in that
No.
you can literally throw them off a building, man, and they're fine. The coating that is on our plates is highly chemical resistant. You could store it in gasoline if you want. It's not gonna.
Wow.
It's gonna be fine. So durability for steel is there's no debate that steel armor is the most durable. But again, take it in context. If you're just going to buy armor and shove it in a safe, buy whatever you want because it just doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah.
But if it's something for a vehicle, which I highly encourage people to do, absolutely, steel's a great fit for that. So.
Oh yeah, heck yeah. Another question I've got here is from, let's do this one, from Ethan. You had talked about the different makers of steel. So is American steel better? There's
Absolutely.
a reason you guys, and why?
One, source control. So don't get me wrong, there's some pretty decent steel that can come out of Europe. But the advantage to steel in the United States is that one, that we're using American labor, you know what I mean? And we're proud of that. We find that it's got better consistency compared to some of the other products out on the market. When I say consistent, I mean talking back in terms of that hardness throughout the shoot. And I think that steel mills in the United States have been a little bit more adaptable to the demands of the market. So particularly going back to the like 600, 700 Brunel that's semi-pliable. I think if we tried to take that to overseas mills, they would have told us to go fly a kite. But the American mills were willing to take on that challenge, and they were successful. So I think that says a lot about those. And is there any reason to not buy American? I think you guys can answer that. You know what I mean?
So. Oh yeah. We're getting to the top of the hour here, near the end. Don't jump off when I end recording. We got to do some stuff after, but I've got a couple more questions we're going to get through here. Another one is from same John as earlier. He was going to ask, what does the future of armor look like?
I think it looks, for the next 10 to 15 years, very much the same. There's been some advancements in ceramic armor that have improved their performance. I think they're comparable to the advancements in steel. Some of our next gen steel is shocking, quite frankly, that they were able to do some stuff.
Can you comment on we were talking about some of the newer rating systems that are being used, or labels, I guess. Do you want to speak to any of that?
Yeah, I think the new RF2 rating. Oh man, I might get nailed on this. I think the new RF2 rating is M193 at 3250 and M855 at, is it 3100 or 31? I can't remember. I think it's 3000 plus.
Wow.
We showed a test video. Actually, I don't think we showed it. I think another YouTuber showed it.
You guys don't have one on your YouTube? We could transfer over.
Oof, I could show you, but then I'd have to kill you. No, I'm just no, it's I think it's kind of out there. We have a product that is not available for sale yet. That I think at a ballistic lab was in excess of 3,300 feet per second.
Jesus, that's small on M855.
At the same weight.
Oh, not M855.
Not M855.
Okay.
That was M193. But I think it was 3150 or something on M855.
Jeez, that's
while we're talking, I'll try to look up the ballistic cert.
That is smoking. Yeah, and those aren't necessarily level 3 rated. They're kind of their own.
They're not. We don't produce them yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Yeah.
But yeah, that'll the RF2 is going to take. So there's going to be RF1, RF2, and RF3. I don't know why they did the numbers this way. It's
a more intelligent system, it seems like, though, for like what threats it's stopping, right?
RF1 is catered more towards poly armor, so it doesn't include the M855 threat. RF2 includes the M193, the 3200 or 3250, I think it is, and the M855 threat. RF3 is both of those and the 30-06 threat again.
Wow.
Sure. So they kept the ridiculous 30-06 caliber for some reason, but at least they're picking up 223 and or 556 now. Yeah. So yeah, it was
crazy. Well, we'll jump to the last question. We kind of almost got into a little bit earlier. One of the things that I have loved from working with you guys in the capacity that I have is how, talking to you especially, how open you are for whatever, right? So this question comes from Jana, and she's asking, what brands do you recommend?
Okay. For body armor?
Yeah, let's maybe do we could say steel. I don't want to sound like, obviously I think you guys do a good job. Are there other companies that do steel well?
I told you early on, I own all three. So the brands that I own are Steel Ops. Steel Ops makes up my vehicle kit. It makes up my sort of general use kit that I train with a lot when I go out and I do training and stuff like that. I'll wear our Steel Ops plates. I have a set of RMA level 4s, and I have a set of the Prime Armor Gen 2 poly plates. I do not train or practice very much with the poly plates. Those are on a very, very slicked down kit. So that is not a kit. I guess my use case would be if I feel like I need to wear armor all day, maybe for multiple days, that's the kit that I'm going to try to pick up. And it is incredibly slicked down. We're talking like one mag for rifle, one mag for pistol, a flashlight, and maybe I throw a backpack on. I could see that being a kit where maybe I got to, head out into the woods for 2 days or something like that. I need something, and I don't want to be humping around with level 4 ceramic plates or even 6-pound Steel Ops plates. I want as light as possible. Or if I'm going to be on a boat, okay, so if I'm going to be anywhere near a body of water, maybe that's the kit that I buy. If I feel like I'm going to be up against heavy calibers, I'll grab the level 4 plates and put them in. And then, like I said, my general use is Steel Ops plates because that's what they're designed for. They make a great vehicle kit. So.
Have you been swimming in that poly plate yet?
I have not swam, but I have actually been in not water that I couldn't stand up in. But yes, I've gotten submerged.
That's the first thing I would do. If I could afford a poly plate, I'd go swimming.
I'll try it. I mean, they are positive points, so in theory they'll help. I don't know.
Yeah. No, just to feel like what it is to move in it and be in it in the water. That's got to be so weird.
Yeah. And on that point, let me give you. I think it was. So if you do all that, if you were to buy all of that armor, you're going to be into 3 sets of armor for, let's call it $900. And you just grab every box.
Wow. That's for all the poly, it was a ceramic that you named. Ceramic,
armor, yeah.
And then steel.
And steel. You're into all your armor. You've checked every single box that really can be checked. And you are totally adaptable to any situation or any threat assessment now. And you're into it for $900, somewhere in there, maybe $1,000 with shipping or something. And
wow.
So it can be done. It can be done.
That's not bad at all.
But of course, start with Steel Ops plates.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, did you have any points you wanted to talk about? Things that maybe I haven't asked that you wanted to cover? Maybe, covering your butt about something, or things you think people should think about?
Just go watch videos, guys. You cannot use Reddit or the comment section as a data point. And sure, you can you can go into the videos thinking, oh, there's going to be some editing trick, or there's, they're just churching it up, or it's a one-off thing. There's a mountain of videos on there. We've done third-party testing. We did a great test with Prep Medic. He's a big YouTube channel. He's a flight medic for UC Health, and he came down and did some testing in person. I think it was something ridiculous, 20 plus rounds of 5.56 and 2.23, wow, and like 3 or 4 rounds of 4.58 SOCOM on one plate before the coating gave out. It is different, guys. There are certain plates there are certain fragmentation coatings that work and certain ones that don't. And just go out and look at the stuff before you make a generalization, I guess is what I would encourage people to do. So
100%. And watch all kinds of stuff, everybody's stuff, and really take pieces, right?
And try to go into every video skeptically. Always be skeptical of an influencer testing something, because they're getting paid.
Yeah. Well, and even if they're
being paid to influence you at a minimum. So
yeah, right. even if they're not, right? A lot of these guys, even that were military, were law enforcement, have a history of it. Sure. They may not really know. They're not armor manufacturers in present company excluded from that, right?
It would blow your mind how many cops and soldiers, Marines, that don't really know anything other than what they've been issued. That's where the knowledge of body armor ends. So
yeah, well, and the same true with climbing gear, right? Like getting into that, or fishing, or hunting, or whatever. Like all these other things that we talk about on this channel. You should follow us, by the way, or when we go live, which should be in a week or so. And you should subscribe, all those things to keep us going. All those things, people in those fields, just because they're an expert doesn't mean they're an expert. Climbers don't really understand their gear. They know, I want this level of protection. Do you need that? Do you need the weight? There's a lot of little pieces that you could dig into. So take everybody's stuff with a grain of salt, absorb information, and make an educated decision.
I think the key things to look for are an NIJ certification. Looking for that. If you don't have to bring it up now, guys, look for the NIJ check mark. Okay, there's a watermark. It's an NIJ watermark. If a plate does not bear an NIJ watermark, it is not NIJ certified. I don't care what it says in the description. I don't care what the company says they've tested it to or whatever. If the plate does not have that watermark on it, it is not NIJ certified. It has just been sent to a lab maybe once and tried. So yes, that little check mark right there. Okay. It is, I'm pretty sure it's against the law for a plate to have that on the back of it and not be on the compliant products list. And if there's ever any question, you can go to the NIJ CPL is what it's called, the NIJ CPL or compliant products list, and you can just look it up. Just because it's on there doesn't mean that it's active either. So you got to click on the thing and make sure that the model is active. If it is, it's probably at a minimum a decent plate because it's passed fit inspection. It's gone through a third-party test to verify it. So that's one of the main things I would look for, and just buy from reputable companies. You know what I mean? And I would open up our email to any of your viewers. If you ever have questions, even if it's not about our armor, email us, shoot us a call. We'll tell you. We'll give you a no BS assessment of whether or not something's legit or not. We've been around, and I think a lot of people would be surprised how much back channel communication there is in the armor industry. We all talk. We all know each other. You know what I mean? So
awesome. Well, that's perfect. We're right there, a minute from the top of the hour. Joe, thanks. I mean, super awesome for you to join us on here. The wealth of information. I hope people really get a lot out of this. I know I got a lot out of this. Just osmosis, man. Just trying to absorb all this information. We'll tune in next time.
I'm gonna have it come back the other way here soon. So
yeah. Tune in next time, and we'll catch you later.
All right.